All right, must be 6 o'clock. So in accordance with South Carolina Code of Laws, 1985, Section 30-4-80-E, the following have been notified of the time, place, and agenda of this meeting: the Herald, the Charlotte Observer, CN2, and WRHI. If I could ask you all please to join me in a moment of silence. Thank you. We'll now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated. You have all received a copy of the agenda. Were there any adjustments or corrections?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
There is one change depending on which version was published versus when they were printed. We do have one recognition that is going to occur later in May, but I think that's fine. It shouldn't require any vote for that. So those will stand with unanimous consent, and we are, though, going to have several recognitions. Starting off, let's see, Dr. Wakesness, are you there you are. I'm looking for you. Are you going to kick these off? Okay. Some exciting.
Yes. Good evening. So I know all of you are familiar with Cognia as they are our accrediting agency, but they also have a robust certification process for STEM. The Cognia STEM certification program recognizes schools and systems that demonstrate strong and effective STEM focus. This process is a third-party evaluation of whether and how a school has built a STEM learning ecosystem and that embodies the practices and characteristics of a quality, relevant, and age-appropriate STEAM education. So when we talk about STEAM and STEM education is more than just science, technology, engineering, and math. It's also fostering critical thinking skills, creativity, problem solving, and all the things that we really want to have our students be able to do as they move into their future. Achieving this certification is no small feat. It reflects a commitment to excellence and forward-thinking approach to education that will benefit our students for years to come. It is my absolute pleasure this evening to recognize the faculty, staff, and students of Gold Hill Middle School for receiving STEM certification through Cognia. I'd also like to recognize Holly Logan, our Director of STEAM and CTE, for her work in growing our district STEAM program. This is truly a tremendous accomplishment and a testament to the hard work of the entire Gold Hill school community. So Stump, if you could come up. The board has a certificate for you to recognize your entire school's achievement.
All right, while we're on the topic of STEAM and Gold Hill Middle School, at this time I would like to recognize Megan Rodriguez and Rachel Shriver, two of our awesome faculty and staff at Gold Hill Middle School, for their work with the robotics team and qualifying for the World Championship, which if you have never been to a robotics competition, I highly encourage you to go. It takes a lot of organization, a lot of teamwork, a lot of effort behind the scenes with these kids, and just so proud of them. Qualifying for the World Championship is a great honor. So at this time, let's give them a huge round of applause.
Second row. Yeah, there we go.
Make sure you can see.
Thanks.
At this time, I'd like to call Fort Mill Middle School's Academic Challenge Team State Championship Award winners to the front. The students entering the room that you see before you are academic team members that have competed not just in our region, and our region is tough. We're against all the Old English Consortium schools. They have to beat out all the schools at the local division tournament to qualify for state. They did that. They had 4 wins at the division tournament that put them into the state championship. They went on to defeat their teams in state. They competed against all academic teams for middle school smaller than 600, and as the scholars themselves pointed out to me, they had a crushing victory in the final that more than doubled the other team score, 46-22 in the state final.
Go. Go.
So we are very proud of their accomplishment. This team is comprised of 6th, 7th, and 8th graders under the leadership of Ms. Inkenbrook from Fort Mill Middle School, and we just want to congratulate them and present them with a certificate.
Y'all are gonna have to make a definite
Yep.
2 rows.
2 rows again.
Perfect. Squeeze all the way in for me.
Short kids in
There you
front.
go. That's right.
That's what it should be.
Right tippy toes, that's what I have to do.
Thanks.
And then I get the honors of one more recognition this evening. We're going to recognize Nation Ford High School's Winter Guard, their first place finish. And at this time, I'd call Mr. Linkus to tell us a little bit about the outstanding achievement of these Falcons.
Good evening, and thank you for having us here for this recognition. It is my pleasure to introduce our 2 co-captains in our color guard at Nation Ford, Hamani Patel and Sabrina Wilson, and their color guard director, Mr. Ben Henley. We're extremely proud of this group's accomplishments this season, and I must brag on them just a little bit, if you would entertain that. Prior to the Carolina Winter Ensemble Association's results from their last competition of the season, prior to that, the Guard actually competed in the international circuit of Winter Guard International, and while doing that, they not only received the Charlotte Regional Championship for this area of the country, they also received the championship first place for the Atlanta Super Regional in that area of the country. So not only did they receive 1 regional championship, they got 2. And then the following weekend, they went to the Carolina Winter Ensemble Association's championships. They were held at Northwestern High School, so not too far away. And both our JV guard and our varsity guard came away as region champions, with our JV receiving the Scholastic A Regional Championship and our varsity receiving the National A Championship. So we're extremely proud of them. And I wanted to give Mr. Henley, our director, just a quick opportunity to share some words with you about the students before we leave you.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you for letting us come in front of you and acknowledging our hard work. Another big thing about this season is that we, in competing in those regionals that we went to this year, had we decided to go to nationals, we would have been ranked first in the country. And that was out of about 140 other teams from all over the country. I'd love to say that that's the best thing about what we're doing, but really a lot of the things that are so great are not the awards. It's the students' everyday commitment that they have to our program. It's the people that they are becoming. It is really my highest honor of my life to stand in front of them every day. And I hope that you ever get a chance to come and see us in rehearsal, that you would see exactly what I'm talking about, because it is palpable at minimum. So I appreciate you taking time and acknowledging them, because to me they're the best, and this district has the biggest support for us, not only from our administration and from our head band director and our fellow staff and fellow chaperones and all the volunteers we have. So we have something really special here, and I thank you for allowing us to have that.
you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
All right, we're going to keep the excitement going. We've got a school spotlight for Kingstown Elementary. Ms. Randolph? I think, maybe, there she is.
Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for having us. I'm Nicole Randolph, and it's my privilege to serve as the principal at Kingstown Elementary. And we are here just to share with you a small piece of what we do at Kingstown. A year ago, our guiding coalition, which is our PLC leadership team, we came together and we felt that it was important that we revamped our school mission a little bit. We wanted to be clear about why we exist. We wanted to have something that our students, staff, and our families would know and also have an anchor for all that we do. So as a group, we came up with this. We are Knights. We belong, we learn, we succeed together. We feel that each of these is vital to what we do every single day. But tonight, we wanted to focus on one of those areas that helps us make all the other ones possible, and that is building a sense of belonging within our school community. So I have some of our amazing staff up here to help me to talk a little bit more about how we do this in our school. And I'll start off with our assistant principal, Mr. Matt Savage.
Hello, everyone. So each morning, our students have the privilege of watching what we call the KNN, the Night News Network. The KNN is written, shot, and produced by our student news crew. It is also with some help from some dedicated teachers. Each morning, they share birthdays, important events, and class spotlights. We also have different jobs around the castle is what we call them. This is where we have students who share responsibilities to help, like Ms. Randolph said, belong at our school. So some of those are our safety patrol, our green team or recycling team, our breakfast helpers, our morning greeters, our lost and found club, our PE helpers, our art helpers, music helpers, and then our tech agents. These students help all of their classroom teachers by knowing the Chromebooks better than anyone else. And now Ms. Ebony Kennedy will share a few more.
Hello, everyone. Let's see here. Did I mess up? All right. So we also have reading and math buddies. They help students build relationships with other grade levels by working together on academic skills. Each classroom participates in morning meetings each day, and which is a chance to build community and work on behavioral and life skills. So these are our reading and math buddies. And it's an honor to see them in the building every day. And here are our morning meetings. You can see those there. Another major way we build a sense of belonging is through our school counseling program. You may have noticed that we were recently recognized as a RAMP school. We thought you might wonder what that means, so our amazing school counselors, Lacey Lane and Landon Bailey, are going to share more about it.
All right, good evening. So I want to start off by sharing that we are incredibly proud of this accomplishment. My co-counselor Landon and I have worked together since Kingstown opened 5 years ago, and it has truly been a privilege to build the school counseling program from the ground up. We really wanted to, when we thought about the why behind this, we really wanted to document the efforts that we put into planning this program, and we thought RAMP was a really great way to do this. So just to break down the alphabet soup, RAMP is Recognized ASCA Model Program, ASCA being the American School Counselor Association. That is our professional association for school counseling. Now then, ASCA Model is the national model in school counseling, and our South Carolina guidance and counseling model is based upon that. So we really worked hard to ensure that our program not only follows the model, but also enhances that sense of belonging that we're talking about tonight. I'm also really excited to be the first school to achieve this accomplishment here in York County. So a little bit about the application process. It does have a 10-component process that requires documentation and narratives for each component. I would say it's pretty similar to the national board certification that teachers go through for earning that certification in terms of time and requirements, efforts involved. However, RAMP is a program designation, not for a school counselor, but rather the school counseling program. I'm going to hand it over to my amazing co-counselor, Landon Bailey.
Hello, my name is Landon Bailey, and I'm another school counselor at Kingstown. And it's kind of crazy to be here because I grew up in the district, so it's like seeing it on this side. I'm like, I know a lot of faces in the room, but thank you so much for all you do. And we're so, like Lacey said, the RAMP was for our school counseling program. You know, her and I had big ambitions from the time that we started Kingstown and building it together, and I've learned a lot through Lacey. And she has helped spearhead this, and I'm so thankful to have her as my co-counselor here. But, you know, how our program looks at our school, and similar across the elementary settings, but we have classroom guidance lessons where we get to go push in monthly and sometimes bi-monthly to get to help students build life skills. These life skills allow them to learn. You know, when students feel socially strong, emotionally strong, they are more academically strong. And so we are so honored to get to go and partner with our teachers and get to do that monthly. We also get to work with students in small group counseling. And these are the students who have to have like a little bit of extra scoops of support. We call it like the ice cream cone. They just need kind of double scoops on theirs. And working on those life skills in a smaller group. And the coolest part of that is that they get to see that they're not alone in this, that they have other peers, and they have a lot of peer-led learning, counselor-led learning. So that's a really cool opportunity. And of course, our individual counseling and crisis counseling that helps us meet needs at a more quickly and advanced basis. So I'm really glad that we get to be a part of that. And one of my favorite parts about our program is our consultation and collaboration. Lacey and I are the counselors and, you know, obviously support the counseling program, but it's not just us. It's all of the stakeholders working together. It's our parents, it's our students, it's our teachers, identifying the students and supporting them. And I feel like it are the close relationships we have with all of our stakeholders, which truly allows our counseling program to thrive. Lacey and I couldn't do what we do without our stakeholder support. So we're very, very thankful for our Kingstown families. And lastly, we often serve as a bridge between our school and home, and helping our parents feel supported at home, like we know when we're taking care of them at school, and helping them support their kids outside of school by getting them connected to the community resources and making sure that they have equal access to those. And the next thing that we have for you is a quick little look inside of our counseling program and how we foster a sense of belongingness at Kingstown for all of our students. Thank you. Do I click it? On the clicker, okay. Oh, I was a bad clicker. Do I need a second?
We're thinking, is this my very best work? How can I make this better?
School counselors at the elementary level have the privilege of working with all students, and it's an exciting role because we can do classroom guidance lessons, so we can teach them skills to help them be successful in the classroom, whether that's having a growth mindset, coping skills when they have big feelings, so they can regulate those big emotions, so they can get refocused back to learning.
Does your brain change? Yes. Does your brain grow?
Our job is to really help build strong foundations so that way they can prosper and grow academically, socially, and emotionally.
I did put your folders out for you already.
And then we also get to support students with small group opportunities. So if we have a group of students,
Breathe in like this. And breathe out.
that can benefit from an extra scoop of support, whether it's coping with big feelings.
Start at the inhale cloud, and we're going to take a deep belly breath.
Family changes, growth mindset, developing that I can do attitude.
Oh, yes, you can blow your bubbles.
All kinds of things to help them be their very best self here at school so they can focus on their learning.
Those worry feelings that are getting out of your body.
We got this. We can do hard things.
So Miss Bailey and Lane means so much to the school. They have instituted so many programs. Just their personality, their warmth, their friendliness, and openness means all the students feel like they have somebody to talk to any time of day. That, to me, just instills this warmth and friendliness and comfort to all of the students, knowing they have a friend, basically, someone they can talk to anytime.
You are going to Squash that thought. At the break.
They are sort of the heart of what we do with kids. I think lots of times teachers have the responsibility of meeting the demands of standards and academic goals, and we need to also be reminded to focus on the social emotional needs of kids.
All right, let's just share one. Let me hear one person's idea.
That piece allows the learning to happen, and Lacey and Landon are a good reminder, but also just a good resource.
No, they keep learning. Great
They
job.
come into our classrooms every month and do lessons. They build relationships with those kids too, but I think they also build relationships with us and allow us to feel more comfortable.
That's amazing what a smile can do for somebody, right?
In situations that, we may not have experienced before, haven't been specifically trained for, dealing with different struggles that kids come in with.
And our teachers are doing an incredible job at supporting what Lacey, Lane, and I both do within our counseling lessons. And I love the opportunity to collaborate with them because we come up with strategies that they can implement in the classroom to help support their students.
How could you adjust that goal?
We're building a solid foundation of skills that they can use here in the classroom, on the playground, in their community and home environments and beyond. So it's really setting them up with those skills so those habits are formed, that healthy coping skills, they already know how to do it. It's a habit. It's not something they have to learn after they go through a traumatic experience or life event. So it's really helpful for them to have that foundation, to take it with them along the way when they leave us for middle school.
They are a resource for me, but they also give us resources to use in our classroom. Every teacher in our building has it's called a Calm box, and it's got lots of different tools that we can use with students in our classrooms.
So we collaborated with our PTO that was able to fund this initiative. So we were able to get a calm down kit for each classroom here at Kingstown. And that's been really helpful because it is a common tool that any child can use. And it's not often utilized, but when it is, it's really helpful because then they're able to jump back in their learning and they're not having to leave the classroom environment to regulate their big feelings.
One of the biggest things that they do is just anticipating needs and being available. The warm personality, they're approachable.
What kind of clubs do you think you might be into?
And so I think for that, students, they're not thinking like, oh, I'm going here when I'm really struggling or I'm down in the dumps. It's I'm just kind of having a hard day and I need somebody to talk to.
You guys have a great imagination.
Relationship is my favorite part of my job. I love connecting with these students because if you can connect with a student, you earn their trust and their respect. They know that you truly care about them. We get to see the students grow from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. We get to develop those relationships across the grade levels.
You could retry. I like it. We're not giving up if we fail that first time. We're going to keep on trying.
And that to me is really special. That's something that we get to do and we get to nurture.
Y'all are going to hang and have fun just like you always have.
They can come to us. They know that they have that special person here at school. That makes me feel good.
What really keeps me going is the kids, the smiles on their faces.
What kinds of things do you think a bubblegum brain thinker says?
The growth that I see, and every child that walks through the door, whether they're smiling or whether they're having a challenging day, they're showing up for us, so we show up for them.
There is point in trying. Woohoo! Exactly.
This video was created as part of National School Counselor Week, and we thought that it was very fitting to honor both of these ladies as they make a tremendous impact in our school community to help students feel like they belong, to help our staff feel like they belong. And I just wanted them to get the recognition that they deserve as getting this prestigious honor. They spent a lot of work doing it, but not only getting the achievement, but all the work that went into achieving it in the first place. And for them, it's not about the honor, it's about the students, and that shows in what they do every day, all day long. So I wanted to make sure that we highlighted them as a part of our recognition today. So thank you. If you have any questions for our group, we're happy to answer them.
Yes.
All right.
Yes, perfect. It's a question for your APs,
Yes.
if they can come up. A wonderful presentation.
Thank you.
So your wonderful principal started her presentation on PLC.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would like for you to kind of share with the public is, what does PLC mean to you? and what does it mean to the collective whole?
You want to start? You want me to start?
Okay. Well, PLT, to me, it means a chance for us to give our staff a chance to work together. It gives our staff a chance to make sure that the lessons that we're teaching are reaching our kids. We're gathering together and we're reviewing that data to make sure that we are guiding our instruction by the data. So every PLT meeting, our goal is to review common assessments or data that has been collected from assessments. So like in those meetings, we sit there, we have some of our data is divided by standards or by questions. Our teachers sit there and they talk about the standards. They talk about like what strategies are needed to help students succeed so that when a next lesson is needed, we know what our kids are lacking. We have, I've even participated in some of our intervention groups, not many, K through 3, but we work together to make sure that we're responding to the needs of our kids. So PLCs mean to me that we are reaching the needs in our building the best way we can. So yeah.
Mr. Staff, is there anything you want to add?
Pretty much sums it up. She did a great job. For PLCs, I look at it as a great opportunity to share ideas and for our teachers to bounce ideas off of each other to make sure, like Ms. Kennedy said, that we're reaching all of our students.
Perfect, thank you. So next question for you, counselors. Great job, ladies.
Thank you.
So there's a moment here that I think, if you would, share with the public, those that choose to click on a YouTube link to come and visit this today or a few days from now. What's changed the last few years? If anything's changed, what's changed? Share with us from your lens, what's changed?
Well, I'll start us off since I've been doing this a little while. This is my 16th year. So she's getting the brunt of it these last 5 years, I would say. No, I often speak to how school counseling is a different profession now than it was when I started 16 years ago. The needs that our students present are vastly different at this time. And we often talk about, well, what does that look like? We do see a lot more anxiety in our students. We see a lot more early signs of mental health issues presenting a lot earlier than when I first started my career. And obviously there's many variables of what could be contributing to that. When I think about what we do to support our students, that hasn't really changed. We've always had our guidance standards from our national model and our state model. We've always taught social emotional learning. We've always taught these life skills that support the students. So what we're doing hasn't changed. We just need to continue to reflect on the data, like our assistant principal spoke to, right? Thinking about the needs that are presenting and how we can cater what we're doing to best meet those needs. And I have been around a little bit. I've been in 2 districts prior to this one. I've been here the longest, my happiest spot, of course. But what I will say is a strength of our district is the supports that we give to our students, and this board makes that possible. Not only do we have school counselors in all of our schools, and I know our district continues to work to lower that ratio as close as we can get to 1 counselor for every 250 students. Ooh, I know that's an ideal. We're all working toward that goal. But this is the district that I've been in that has done the best job with that. And it's not only the school counselors that work with all students, but it's the mental health counselors for those students that have greater needs that are beyond our scope. So they have access to that. And that's not something that all districts across our state are able to provide. We also have the support and help of our behavior interventionists and our RBTs, our registered behavior technicians. So it's truly a team effort because with our amazing ladies in our guidance suite, we are blessed to have a guidance suite at Kingstown where we can collaborate with our fellow suite mates, as we call them, to help make sure that the social emotional needs of our students are met. Because when they are met, they're able to perform and attend academically in the classroom.
So if you would, your teammates, if you will.
Yes.
Kind of share with the public what does, not getting personal information, but
sure.
How does that collaboration work?
Sure. Well, we consult and collaborate on a daily basis. We also, one of the transitions that I really have loved to see in school counseling over the years is really being a more integral part of that MTSS process, the multi-tiered systems of support. or RTI, or the student support team. We've called it many things over the years. It's that alphabet soup I spoke to. But what it is now is really we are able to tackle the behaviors and the social emotional needs of our student in a more collaborative way. So we're able to meet regularly as a team with our administrators and my sweet mate crew, our school psychologist, our behavior interventionist, RBT, and our mental health counselor. And we get to talk about the students who do require those extra scoops of support and the extra supports that we're providing and monitoring the progress that they're making. Sometimes that does lead to an evaluation through our school psychologists where we are able to diagnose and see that there are, learning needs or behavioral and social emotional needs that are going to need long-term support. And other times we're able to meet those needs through our MTSS process, and they're able to phase out and they now have the skills that are able to help them be successful in the classroom. So it's that ongoing collaboration on the daily, but also our regularly scheduled meetings have been incredibly helpful. And I just love that our district has allowed us to do that. And we just make growth in that area every year.
So based on what I'm hearing is some of these positions that we've approved have been a huge benefit to the
Huge. I cannot emphasize that enough. We cannot do what we do to support the whole school because, again, as we are school counselors, we work with all students. And we joke our caseload is 425 each in our school at the current moment. It'll get a little lighter next year. But it's true because we do get to serve all students through our guidance lessons. We get to serve our students through small groups where we get to meet multiple needs at one time. And then, of course, individually for that short-term support as well.
Thank you. Great job.
Thanks.
I'd like a calm basket office for my car.
Our PTO will get right on it.
Thank you all.
Thank you guys, and it was great to see some different types of recognition and spotlight focus. And we get a lot of academics, we get a lot of athletics, but I love seeing some of the other things being recognized and some of the other things that really make the entire district hum the way it does. So thank you guys all for participating in that.
Congratulations on your award, by the way. Yes.
We have a couple of sets of minutes to approve. You've all received a copy of the minutes from March the 4th. Were there any adjustments or corrections?
No.
Those will stand with unanimous consent. March 18th as well.
No, ma'am.
Adjustments, corrections. All right, all good. Those will stand as well. I do have one card for public participation. Mr. McCluskey, if you want to come on up. If you'll come to the podium, give us your name and address, and then you've got up to 5 minutes to address the board.
Good evening. Brendan McCluskey, 729 Warwick Way in Fort Mill. Tonight, the health risks associated with Flint Hill schools located near heavy industrial solar cell manufacturing facilities is on my mind. It should be on everyone's mind locally as one school year draws to a close and another one looms large on the horizon. Therefore, let's take into account what university studies have been done elsewhere related to this topic. There are several universities that have conducted broader studies on the environmental and health impacts of industrial facilities near schools. These studies provide valuable insights into both short-term and long-term health risks for those in closest proximity to the manufacturing facilities, which would be your staff and our children. Such short-term health risks include respiratory infections due to air pollutants produced nearby, increased risk to childhood interstitial lung disease and acute toxic exposure leading to aplastic anemia. Long-term health risks include chronic respiratory diseases such as COPDs, increased cancer risks from exposure to chemicals, physical and cognitive developmental issues in children exposed to chemical emissions, and prolonged exposure to VOCs. Solar cell manufacturing is heavy industrial manufacturing. Harvard University has published studies on the cognitive effects of air pollution on school-aged children, and also UCal Berkeley has produced extensive research on the impact of children's health and development near industrial manufacturing areas. Their studies engage qualified chemists, engineers, plus local and federal agencies to produce these results. Chemists are trained to understand toxicity and hazards of materials. Engineers are trained to analyze and assess risk. Emory University has written to you. Local law enforcement trained in chemical disposal and hazmat have warned you. Parents have a right to speak out and who have justifiable concerns have pleaded with you. Please stop ignoring them. I'm glad you've begun seeking input from EPA, air quality testing, hydrologists, and industrial health specialists, but what about accidental releases? What about automation failure on the acid scrubber, which is already up? Fire and evacuation issues and uncontained chemical spills. Wright is doing everything you can to protect all children by conducting an independent third-party environmental risk analysis, especially for children that parents have entrusted to you to keep safe while at these new schools. Wrong is ignoring parents and professionals. Now is the time to show us all you know right from wrong. Ensure a safe and healthy learning environment for all children. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are now going to get an update on the superintendent search process. Ms. Pratt, do you want to kick this off?
Sure. Our committee has been busy. We have been working on our timeline and making sure that we're allowing enough time. So that's what we have been working on for the past few weeks. Our community and stakeholders have given lots of input and had lots of conversation. And today, for the first time in forever, but we are all excited to see the results of the community feedback and the community engagement. And hopefully what the community thinks we need in a superintendent matches what we think we need in a superintendent. So I'm anxious to hear. All yours, Dr. Kastner. All right, Dr.
Madam Chair,
Welcome.
Board of Trustees, Dr. Epps. I want to get this in sometime in my presentation, but the opportunity to learn more about your legacy has been a pleasure. We really enjoyed having our conversations with you. We also have enjoyed learning more about your school district. Tonight, we now have public record of the results of the days we spent in your district and the information we've collected that creates a data-driven draft leadership profile for the board to consider that we will use to vet our candidates. The most important decision school boards make is the hiring of a superintendent. That's what you're elected for, and that is your responsibility. But you also, in working with this, have developed a process in which you've tried to engage your community. In engaging your community, you have trusted us to listen, to record what we heard, and to analyze the data from the surveys. The participation was purposeful. It was well organized. We had great staff support. And in the end, we have identified qualities and characteristics that we think are representative of what your community is looking for in your next superintendent. But we've not only talked about strengths, we've also talked about challenges. And all this, as you're well aware, because you're here every day. So when you look at the results of the days we spent in your district, we talked to over 163 people, board members, staff, parents, community members. We had over 17 stakeholder meetings, and we had a public forum in which we asked the same 3 questions. On the student survey, we're close to 2,000 responses. We had responses in Spanish. We also had responses from your students. Now, this is just a snapshot, but it's a pretty authentic snapshot. And as I go through this, I'm going to try to give it some context. So when we want to talk about the participation, and you look at the fact that we're dealing with over 2,000 responses, and 84% of the people live in your community. 68% the children attend schools. The balance is internal and external. You're not just talking about information gathered from staff. It's a balance between the staff and the entire community. And that's what you want, because you're looking for internal and external support. We're also looking to engage people not only in sharing their information in the superintendent search, but also being there when you hire your new superintendent to help them have a successful transition. At the same time, we're suggesting, while we were here only for 3 days, people that have an interest in this search need to talk to board members up through the idea when they do their interviews. But let's be clear. The decision will be the school board's. That's what you're elected for. But you're doing it in trying to work with an internal process that is inclusive of everybody at least having an opportunity to comment. So when you look at this, what are the strengths for Fort Mill Schools? What stands out? Look at it. Excellent teachers and staff. When you also look at, and we don't always see this, the reputation of your district. You have a stellar reputation. Good school facilities. I had the opportunity on my tour to see those school facilities, and they were quite impressive. So the issues you're dealing with are not issues of aging infrastructure. You're dealing with issues involving just keeping up with providing the facilities and the growth with the public support. The thing you need to understand that one of the things that came up for your students, because we also have disaggregated the data for the students, where the majority of the public talks about educational options and programs, 22%. 40% was the number that came from your students, which shows an appreciation for the opportunities they have in their schools. And so I thought that was pretty positive. And again, these are strengths that you celebrate. Strengths that, as I've been in 2 of your board meetings where you talk about instruction and you recognize the great efforts you have in your schools. What are 3 most important skills you'd like to see in your next superintendent? So when you think about over 2,000 people, and over 60% talk about communication skills. Then what stands out is decision-making and problem-solving. And then you can see adaptability and innovation. Now, I want to make a comment on this because it sometimes comes up in a meeting like this. I'm not a psychometrician. When I analyzed this data in the very beginning for the first 1,000 people that completed the survey, and then I looked at the data when we had 2,000 people, it didn't vary by 1%. So even though you have over 18,000 students, and people will wonder, did you really get a representative sample over, and this is, I've done over 50 searches, this pattern is consistent, that when you get a sample with this size, you can rely on it being the information shared by your entire community. So when you look at this and you're talking about the problem solving and the decision, here with the important characteristics, the one thing that I would say the students, they valued communication almost to 70%. So they realize that's important. 3 characteristics you'd like to see in your next superintendent. Integrity stands out as number 1. And you can look at the list when you're talking about commitment to the community. You're talking about looking at, now, 32% visionary, 31% team builder. Interesting with your students. You notice enthusiasm is 20% for the people other than the students. The students put enthusiasm at 40%. So they're looking for someone that is energetic. They're looking for someone that they would get to know and that type of an outreach. What are some issues and concerns? Well, you're living it, growth. The fact that you are successfully dealing with growth, and you're going to have to continue to deal with that, is a compliment that people want to come here and live here. And then you look at issues such as funding. Well, it's interesting, the students only had 36% for growth because I don't think it impacts them. They're happy in their own schools. But you, as a greater community, you have to live with it. And you know it's your responsibility. So when you look at the idea of funding, and then you have personnel. We're going to get into that in a little bit more. Why would personnel be there? And we're going to get into the fact that attracting and retaining staff and remaining competitive to require to find the best teachers, then it has a different context. Not necessarily a negative context, but it's a challenge that you have to have. When you get into items that are important or extremely important, strategic planning. You can't have a dynamic district that's going through growth without having some sort of a direction and a vision in which how you're finding a way to address the needs of each school. And then you talk about experience in instruction, experience in personnel, experience as a classroom teacher. It came up often. Has someone had boots on the ground experience on what it's like in a classroom? You're not looking for necessarily a non-traditional candidate that has never been in a classroom, at least from the data that we have here. You're also looking for someone that has experience as a superintendent with a proven track record of success. That track record being, have they moved the needle on student achievement? That's what came out loud and clear. So the questions that we posed to the board members and each meeting that we had, what are the strengths of Fort Mill School District? What are your greatest issues, concerns, or challenges? And what are the qualities, experiences, and characteristics you'd like to see in the next superintendent? When you look at the quantitative data, and then, as I need to share with you, in Appendix 1 of this report, where we recorded what everybody said. So when we met with all the school board members, you're going to see the composite of what they shared. When we met with principals, you'll see this. When we had a public forum, you'll see this. So Appendix A or 1, which one it is, the fact is that's the annotated information that balances the survey, and you triangulate, and you're going to see some internal consistency. So you talk about excellent teachers and staff. The reputation of your district, how you might tout, how you're rated not only here in South Carolina, across the country. Your school facilities. The whole issue of a supportive community. Excellent student performance. And often we heard family feel. Family feel is something that you're working to hold on to as you get larger. But the fact is, it is a factor. It also has to do with your size, your square miles. People know each other as you go through. Challenges, issues, or concerns. Growth and funding, we already know about. Personnel is trying to find the best qualified teachers and then keep them here. And you're in a competitive area around you, and the other systems are trying to do the same. Well, you don't want to lose ground to that, and that's something that has to be addressed when you're developing your budgets and you're trying to remain competitive, and you're also trying to use professional development to also help attract your teachers. As we know from the previous speaker, there are issues with the zoning issue in the new elementary school. You're well familiar with that. It's not going to go away. But as you're going through June, July, and August, either through your present superintendent or the new person you hire, that's something that's going to have to get ironed out in a transparent way with your community as you start your next school year. However, when you balance everything else, you get to the fact that what we're looking for now is information on how you build a leadership profile. And in doing that, we want to talk about a visionary instructional leader, an effective communicator, someone that is collaborative, and we use the word manager in a very positive sense. In a complex district with a size of probably the top 2% in the country, there's a complexity in the management side that's far greater than in a district that has 2,000 students. So the candidate pool will be smaller for people that are going to be able to be qualified for working in a dynamic growth district, and also a district where you have to balance all these factors with all your different schools, and the fact that each school is a little bit different, a little unique. So while you're going to have very common direction, you're also going to have an autonomy that reflects each school. And as I would go through some of the schools, they're different. They're the personality of your students and the idea of the personal qualities. What we've tried to do in dealing with the one-on-one interviews, the online survey, the fact that we had over 2,100 participants was to find themes and patterns from prominent responses. So a response didn't come up but one time, that would not be prominent. So as you, as board members, are going to have an opportunity to read through this, and also your community. This should be on your website, and that's the design. And if for some reason we missed something, we still got a few months, well, a month or so, to, if you think there's something else that needs to be considered, people could, as other people did, I did receive about 14 emails. The emails are a little bit longer, a little bit more passionate, but people had the opportunity to express their thoughts, which they can also do with the school board. So we think this whole dynamic of a momentum through a superintendent search is a very positive thing. It's a type of thing that can build upon success, but also the fact people don't want to stay status quo. You didn't get here by staying status quo. And that's the issue that you're looking for in trying to find your next leader. Now, this leadership profile that you're seeing for the first time is a draft document that we think is representative of the data. We'll quickly go through it, but we would need board members to consider if we can work this out, Madam Chair, with getting some input from board members if for some reason they have some language adjustments. But we'd like to have it in the next few days so we can use that. You don't need to call another board meeting. You just need to have a process if there's some different language that better reflects what you would like. So we don't expect this to be something you just take as is. But when you're talking about this, and you're talking about looking for a visionary instructional leader, you're looking for someone that is committed to excellence. Your school district has high standards, and your citizens hold you accountable to that, and that's the same type of thing that you want in your next leader. You're looking for someone that is highly visible, forward-thinking, will enhance the school division's collaborative, innovative, and diverse culture, which is going to continue to become more diverse. A visionary educator who is an effective communicator, a strategic leader, fosters accountability among team members. A trusted public educational leader who is experienced in managing resources and knowledge of sound fiscal procedures. An accomplished leader who can create a positive working relationship with the board, the staff, and the community. When you're talking about instruction, someone that has that expertise and understanding of a pre-K to 12 continuum, someone with an understanding of teaching and learning, will initiate multifaceted programs that prepare each student for post-secondary or career, not either or both. Someone that is committed to implement initiatives that will continue to expand opportunities in meeting the needs of all students and continue to work on closing achievement gaps. Closing achievement gaps isn't an issue just in this district, it's an issue across the country. But it is an issue that you as a school board, with the successes you're having with high SAT scores and a lot of the choices your students have, also have to be balanced with any other student that hasn't quite reached that level. So your importance of your district and the success of your district is how also you deal with marginalized students. And that type of balance goes beyond just necessarily the high scores. It has to be how you're moving in the direction of showing that gain and growth with all of your students. And that's the type of thing we'll be looking for in some of the data we'll be asking for some of our candidates. Idea of an effective communicator, the ability to engage all diverse community members, to look at stakeholder groups, even with different perspectives, to be politically astute. In this day and age, whether it's state or whether it's national, there's issues you have to deal with and balance. And in doing that, it is a complex environment, far more complex than when I was a superintendent. But the fact is, the people that you're going to have applying for this job, that's the world they live in. And they'll join you with that. Someone that's an active listener, values transparency, and can build trust throughout your community. You notice this whole issue of collaborative manager, we know about instruction, but when you look at the ideas of this very first bullet, financial planning, accounting, human resources, construction, management, while you're talking about aging infrastructure, you might not have as great a challenge as other places, but it's something you'll have to look at. Transportation, safety, technology is an issue. The idea of understanding AI now is scary, but it's something that's not going to go away. So you need to have that understanding. Expertise and effective strategies to attract and retain qualified and diverse staff through transparent hiring processes. Hands-on experience in strategic and long-range planning is strategic and innovative in building upon existing strengths, which you have. But also the fact is, if something isn't working quite as well, how would you make improvement? And how would the issue of making decisions that have an equity in them, where you're talking about balancing the needs of all your different schools? It's tricky, but it's the type of thing that has to be on the forefront. When you're talking about personal qualities, can build a positive culture of trust, fairness, can unify, build strong relationships, internal and external, has the courage to be guided in making decisions that are in the best interest of all students. Folks, the one thing that when you look at a leadership profile, you're looking for someone that can climb tall buildings.
The single bound.
And we hope to find people that would at least meet 80% of the profile, because some people are going to bring a balance of different things. Whether they live in South Carolina, where they live in a different part of the country, whether they're internal candidates, whether they're external candidates, we're looking for all of that balance. So at this point, as you're going to work to approve the leadership profile, then you're going to be working on next steps. And the next steps here, the deadline for applications is April 28th. We have already about 20 people that have applied at this point, which I think is pretty positive. That number will get larger. But we haven't reached the point of vetting until we get all the applications in. And when we do the vetting, we'll do our deep background checks. And we'll get to a point where we feel we can recommend 4 to 6 candidates to the board that we feel meet the leadership profile. But it's the board's decision on who you will interview. And in doing that, in May, it's going to be a very busy month. I think there's a lot of wisdom that your board wanted to have this whole process wrapped up before the end of the school year. And this is doable. But it is going to affect your schedules. And we're also asking, and we suggest that we should have 100% of the board members be part of the interviews with the candidates. We're also recommending that you shouldn't be hiring a candidate on a split vote. If you want someone to bring their family here, we would hope you would find the ability, even behind the scenes as you're working through this, if we can make your job hard, that you find someone that separates and can continue the legacy that is already here and move it towards the future. In doing that, in South Carolina, you have a balance that many states don't have. Almost 90% of the school systems in the country, the public will never see the finalist candidate until that person is announced by the school board. In South Carolina, by law, 3 candidates will be chosen for the board, and they will be in the public, and the public will have the opportunity, whatever means you use, to have them go through your district, have them maybe respond to questions in a public way, to perhaps having some feedback mechanism if people want to share with board members some of their thoughts. Again, you balance the transparency of the process with the fact that it's the school board that makes the final decision. This isn't a public vote. And there's a reason for that. You as board members are going to see more information than the public will ever see. You'll be looking at the entire application process. You'll be looking at all the reference checks. You'll be looking at all the Google searches. You'll be looking at an in-depth array of information that no way can an outside group do that, and that's the charge that you have when you're going to be making a decision. Our goal is to make sure we don't have any surprises, and that's important. And we know how serious you all have taken this job, and we are trying to help support you. There's some decisions that you as a board yet have to make. That means the process of how you might choose to do the day in the district, and you have to weigh in, but we don't have to get to that now. So as we are conducting this report here, it now becomes public record. Hopefully there'll still be continued conversation. And then you'll be setting a date when we will come and present the candidates. But when we present the candidates, we are also going to go through effective interview processes and protocols. We will give you sample questions that you might consider. All this, the boards make the decision. And we'll be here to try to help you in any way possible. So when we come back to you, Libby, I don't remember the exact date, but it's already scheduled. And then there's a couple decisions the board needs to make, whether you want to do it electronically with a Dropbox or whether you want a notebook, your call. We also believe that, and I am under the impression that we will do this, we will do formal background checks on the 3 finalists. And of course, then there's the process of negotiations. So in doing this, you can still email me, but I suggest at this point, with this report, email the board members at this point to share your information. This concludes my report, and I'd be happy to entertain any questions.
Okay, I got a couple questions. So the first one here, so there are a couple times, this is from your perspective, so a couple times where you mentioned complex district. Can you share with the public what you mean by that?
Size. When you have size and you're talking about central office, you're talking about delegation of staff. You're talking about putting everybody working in the same direction. If you're a system that's 3,000, 5,000, which is the average system in the country, you don't have the same complexity, because when you end up having to delegate, then you need to verify. That's one of the complexities. Other complexities that are inherent in any superintendent's job is understanding the state and national politics, the issues of equity, the different competitions between public schools and private schools, all these types of things. The management piece, when you're getting into trying to create building sites, trying to also then, have schools so you don't have a lot of portable classrooms, which I was pleased to see. I mean, there are districts that you might have 30, 40 portable classrooms because they're having trouble keeping up with growth. You've been fortunate that you have the community support but that still has to be earned. That's not given. If you have to get into some of these funding issues, that's an added complexity.
Okay. How would you describe the 18,000 students framework versus the 2,000 responses? Is that typical? Is that a smaller number that perhaps you may see, or you would have, of course we'd like to see a number larger, but I'm just curious from your lens.
I think you're about in the middle.
Okay.
You're about in the middle. And this isn't a positive or negative. I don't think of the data we collected, if we would have doubled the number of responses, the information would be any different, in my opinion.
Yep.
And it is representative. I'd be very concerned if all of a sudden we were under 1,000. You're at 2,000. So at this size of district, I do think it's representative. There's also a lot of stuff going on. We did this, we wanted to move in a way that we would try to get as much participation. I don't think if we took another week or two, necessarily it would be any different. So I feel that we're in good shape with this, in my opinion.
Thank you.
I have a question. Could you help me understand? It looks like on excellent teachers and staff, I mean, we're getting, what is that? It's very small. It's like 71%. But then we go down to effective leadership, and we're at, I can't even see it, it's in the 20s. Can you help me understand what reconciles that? You would think one would reflect the other.
I don't know if I can give you a good answer. Are you looking at one of the data?
You can go to the Q3, select from the list below 3 most significant strengths of Fort Mill schools.
Slide 5.
Yeah.
Page 4.
I mean,
the most important strength?
Yeah.
When you give a forced choice, like pick your top 3 or so, that doesn't mean the others aren't significant. It's just that it's a matter of people's opinion. I don't know the answer. I don't think it's negative.
Is that a common ratio?
Yeah.
And my gut from just surveys in general is it is the teachers and staff that are the closest to, whether it's the student, the parent, whomever is filling out the survey or responding. No offense, but they don't personally interact with Dr. Epps every day, right? And so to them, when they think what's important, what's going to make this happen, That doesn't surprise me at all.
So going back to another point of importance, visibility was pretty big.
Big, very big.
So
Let me offer, first off, I appreciate your question. I think when you're looking at this for the first time, and then you have an opportunity to look at Appendix A that talks about the annotative information, there might be a follow-up. One follow-up that I've seen happen in districts is, since we've separated the student data, maybe having an opportunity for board members or even staff to get a representative group of students and say, while you filled this out, and we did
Tell me
take,
more.
and you do see the recorded responses, you might want to use this as just a positive exercise of engaging them. And even the same point, those same students, when you hire your next superintendent, get that new person right in front of that same group so that they can, get a good start. I appreciate your question. I don't have a definitive answer for it, but I think possibly as you're going to go through this, there might be a few other questions when you're looking at balancing the quantitative with the qualitative data.
And just for my clarification again, we've received this so far, which mirrors the presentation that you've done. When will that?
Is right.
Okay, so we will be able to review the appendix. Perfect.
We have sent it electronically. We waited till later in the afternoon. We wanted to have you all be the first ones to see it first. And now hopefully, maybe there'll be some further discussion as people look through it as you do.
So I have a question, but it's not necessarily for you, but we had the question about our 2,000 plus or minus responses. Mr. Burke, in the past, when we have sent out different survey things for different purposes, what's been kind of our percentage or our amount of response? Is that pretty atypical for where?
Yeah, I would say so. Using the calendar, for example, which is something that is directly impactful.
Right.
30,000 parents, 80,000 kids, we got a very similar number in responses.
Okay,
So
that's what I thought. but
Yeah,
I-
for those that are watching or for the recording, things like the calendar feedback, similar number to the number of responses that we receive on something like a calendar. So that is good because we know that people take the time to do those things. So that's good that it's a comparable number. Other questions? To your point, I know this group has worked really hard to sort of build out a plan and the next steps. And we do. We have several days that we've already earmarked for the time that's needed to spend time with candidates, to spend time with the information and interviews and so on and so forth. So it is our number one job, and we take it very seriously. We know that it's really important, and we're going to make the time to make it be a successful activity over the next 8 weeks or so.
Yes.
Other questions? All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
That's right. We do have one staff report from Ms. Lordo.
Great, thank you and good evening. Tonight, I'm reporting on the monthly financial report for February, and that's 8 months into the fiscal year. As we would expect, we're in a positive cash flow after taxes. I'm not sure if to put up our highlights.
I don't know.
I'll make sure we have it next time.
Well, it's in there in the public section, so I wasn't sure if it was like really coming or not.
Let me see if Mr. Burke can load our financial report highlights. The total revenues to date were $181,231,956, and total expenditures were $146,245,218. So as I mentioned, we're in positive cash flow of approximately $35 million. As we would expect, we've just completed the what we call tax season. Once again, vehicle tax collections this month did not disappoint me. We collected $1,723,757 in vehicle taxes, and this is our new monthly financial overview format. So this is our monthly revenues. As you can see, once again, we're now more in the period of local revenues have far exceeded state revenues during this period of the fiscal year. But as I start working on the budget plan for next year and what we will be discussing to bring to you as the administrative recommendation, I've projected out property tax revenue from now until June 30th. And what I look at is I take actual collections through this period, and then I look at what the actual collections for March through June of last year. And then I use a conservative growth rate based on historical collections. And so right now I'm estimating that we may end the fiscal year with about 1.8 million over on property taxes. But that is only 1.9%. So if that ends up being about where we fall in on property taxes, we've met the budget 98% of accuracy. And that's certainly my goal as we bring the recommendation to you for next year, is trying to be as accurate as we can on property tax collections, because we are certainly now very reliant on property taxes versus state revenue. With, as you heard before, that's one of our main concerns is funding, and specifically state funding.
And you're going with what you mentioned is you're going with a conservative.
I usually go with about a 3% growth rate for property tax collections. And that usually has worked well for us, as you can see, if we hit it at about 98% accuracy.
Okay, so that could be a good bit higher.
It could be, but we just don't want to, I do not want to overestimate that number. So generally, that's what I use. But the numbers that you're looking at through February are critical, because that's my starting point for working on the budget for next year for the plan.
Joe, we try to push her higher every year.
I know. They do try to push it higher.
It sounds like you have it right in the crosshairs.
Any other questions on the monthly? I'll move on to impact fees. We have total collections to date, $73,939,454. We've now collected on 2,883 single-family homes and 1,797 multifamily, for a total of 4,680 units. March, we had collections on 25 units. Of the 25, 7 were homes and 18 were multifamily condo townhomes. Comparable data was almost identical for the current 12 months and then the 12 months prior. But March actual collections were $343,466. The most important thing about impact fees that I wanted to share with you and the public tonight is next Monday night, April 7th, will be third reading by York County Council of the proposed impact fee, or the new impact fee based on the most recent comprehensive impact fee study. So next Monday night, April 7th, will be third reading by York County Council. Any questions about impact fees?
I'm trying to do a quick estimate on how much this would actually be under the new impact fee. So I didn't get my math done quick enough. But multifamily alone, instead of 216.3, would be around 325,000.
Which would be significant towards our next construction
You
project.
said 7 homes, right? So that'd be
7 homes for
210
March.
versus 140,
Right.
give or take, right?
Yeah. As far as a couple other updates, the state budget, next week, April 8th through the 10th, the Senate Finance Committee will be in budget deliberations. And I'm very interested to watch that. We are remaining a little optimistic. The Senate may come in and put additional revenue into the state aid to classroom funding, trying to get teacher pay up a little bit and either match or get closer to what Superintendent Weaver and Governor McMaster proposed with the $50,000 starting point for teacher pay. Just as a reminder, the House only increased teacher pay $1,500, so the state pot is only $112 of, 112 million of new money versus the proposed 200 million of new money. So I will be watching that very closely next week. And then the full Senate budget discussion will be the week of April 22nd. So April 8th through the 10th, and then April 22nd through the 24th will be key dates to watch the state budget process through the Senate. As far as our local budget, at the next meeting, we will begin our discussions with you on what our revenue projections look like and what some of our funding priorities that the administration will recommend. But I did want to share, we have received the Act 388 millage limitation formula calculation. Consumer price index for next year is a good bit lower than we've seen in the last couple years. It's 2.95% CPI, and our growth percentage is 4.45%. So those added together, you would have the authority to increase 7.40%. And if you take 7.40% times the current millage for operations, you would have the authority to increase 21.2 mills for next year. Okay. And then the last thing I want to share is, as you know, we, the South Carolina School Board's Insurance Trust, which is a division of the School Boards Association, handles all of our workers' comp and property and casualty insurance. And they recently sent us these nice little rebate coupons that they asked me to share with you, and I'm certainly glad to do that. But we've received 2 member loyalty coupons that will help offset our premiums for next year. But the workers' comp premium rebate is $91,012 for next year, and the property and casualty rebate is $57,523 for next year. So we are very appreciative of this, and we're appreciative of the approach they take for all of their member districts and how they administer the insurance programs for us. I can't give them enough accolades for the customer service that we receive on a daily basis. Is tremendous, and we very much enjoy working with them and appreciate all the support that they give our district. So I definitely wanted to share this with you tonight and publicly as far as what they're doing for their member districts. They are a nonprofit, so they're not in it to make profit, but they turn around and give dollars back to the school districts to help offset the premiums for the next year. So,
While you've rolled off of that board,
and I've rolled off the board.
I'm
yes.
rolling on. So we'll still have presence and knowledge of what's
great.
going on.
Well, and I'm hoping that's a reflection that we didn't have a whole lot of workers' comp accidents and things, which is always good news as well. Everybody is taken care of.
Hopefully, we'll continue not to have a lot. So, yes.
Hey, Leanne, what was the CPI number?
The CPI number is 2.95%, and the growth number is 4.45%. So it's a total of 7.40%.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
All right. We do have some action items from our last meeting, starting with the strategic plan. Dr. Wakesness.
Yeah, so a couple weeks ago, you got to hear all about our strategic plan and the work that we've done on that. And at this time, I would like to ask if there's any more questions on the plan as submitted. All right, then we would like to ask for your approval of the update to the 5-year strategic plan.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to update the 5-year strategic plan with the most recent data as presented.
Motion and a second to approve the 5-year strategic plan as presented. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank
you.
We also have an action item for some textbooks. I don't know if Gail's or Peter is going to go first.
Yes, ma'am. So it's textbook time. I know we've have to do a lot of these throughout, and I think you're well aware of the process, but if you have questions about the process, I'll be happy to answer those questions. Quick timeline, the caravan was on February 26th. We did a debrief on the 28th, gave our grade levels similar for secondary as well, for our teacher teams to review those materials at the school. They did feedback forms, got that back to us, and tonight we're here seeking your approval after we got that feedback. So the state does ask, there's usually, for elementary, for example, there was 6 total options to go through. They wanted us to narrow it down to about 3 to bring back to our grade level, so that's what we had a committee do. And I just have one for you. Dr. Scroggs has a lot. So the one for elementary is our choice was Kidam Math. Gave you some reasons why. The key things here is it just aligns great with the standards we felt like. It had a lot of problem-based learning and critical thinking activities and skill-based type content within that material. Those are the 3 things I want to just kind of leave you with. You can read through the rest if you like, and I'm happy to talk more about it, but that is why we are going with Kidam for our elementary selection.
Peter, can I add, a lot of times the public will ask questions about the process. Back in December, November, the state board has an open period where you can go to Winthrop and several places and provide input. These books you're recommending have already been approved by the State Board of Education, so.
Correct, yes. So the state actually sent out, and Joe Burke sent out for public feedback. It went to the State Department website where they had selections of the materials that parents and community could look through and give feedback, and then the state gives us the options for us to choose from. So that's kind of where we went to the actual caravan, which are the state adopted eligible materials. And then we kind of through committee work narrowed those down to then for all the teachers to look through from those top 2 or 3. And that was the State Department's recommendation, was to narrow those down to about 2 or 3 options per book, per course. So Kidam is for elementary, and I know Dr. Scroggs has several he needs to go through.
Hey, Mr. Ellinger.
Yes, sir.
I do have a question. I know a lot of people, you know, they're wondering how the balance of AI and education kind of comes into play. Could you kind of unpack the AI powered tools of what we're expecting to get from them?
Yeah, so and a lot of the textbooks will have very similar features in them. You know, so a couple others we looked at, Savas and McGraw-Hill, had similar things. So it actually, you can kind of input problems and it kind of kicks it back, as well as just practice type materials. That's really kind of the scope of it, that you could kind of put things into, working on standards that can generate those types of things. Does that make sense? Yeah.
All right. Mr. Olinger had 1 book. I have 26, but we're going to, that's not an exaggeration. We're going to try and go through them by grade band and by grouping to make more sense. Obviously, I can't go into the same level of elaboration on the why, but I'll let you know we went through the same process that he outlined with either a coordinator or a director. We had the social studies, science, and math coordinators lead on those selections of text, and the director of CTE lead on that. They assembled groups of teachers, assembled feedback, even with the math that had the largest overhaul, which is why you'll see so many texts today, is really math is the bulk of it, and then there are others. Is because of the standards redesign. We kind of talked about that last year. We talked about how geometry was going to, starting next year, be the first course in the sequence. It's a redesign in standards across the board. So starting in middle school, we have new textbooks for 6, 7, 8. For those who are GT students, in 6, we're used to having like 6 and 7 standards crammed into 1 year. They're not doing that in 6th grade. It's just a deeper understanding for the GT for Math 6. And then in 7, you'll see that word compacted. We're taking 7th and 8th grade standards, compacting them together so that students can go into geometry. Envision was the book of choice. It's really called Envision. I kind of throw 6 up there, or compacted, let you know there is differentiation. Even the geometry text is a version of Envision. Outside, kind of in the hallway leading to your chambers over there, we have a copy of each one of these books, and it's on 3 or 4 tables in length. But Savas was the primary publisher for everything middle school. When we look at the high school, again, just sticking with math at this point, complete redesign. We have a couple of new courses up there in terms of reasoning and mathematics, and there'll be another one on the next page. But they're selecting new standards, selecting new text. So we're all over the place with publisher, and we bring the teachers of that subject together to say, we like this feature, we prefer this online textbook, we prefer all of the different features that they have. As Mr. Helms, as you referred to in terms of the AI tools, some have more bells and whistles than others in terms of what they have. And once you get out of one specific publisher, it looks very different. So again, instead of giving you, a 2-hour spiel of what they've gone through, high school is going through all of these courses along with the other new course. I'll go back for just a second. Applications and Modeling is a brand new course. We've never had that before. And then, let's see, Reasoning and Mathematics is a brand new course. Those are the two kind of terminal pathways that for a student who takes geometry and algebra, these two courses are sort of like the equivalent of Algebra 2, and they would be sequence of Math 3 and 4 to get your 4 math credits with algebra and geometry. For those that are going on to higher ed, you'll see the traditional pathways where they're just going to take Algebra 2 and then something beyond that, and these course offerings are not different in that regard. So this goes all the way up through our pre-calculus, calculus, and AP courses. So it'll walk you through AP Calc, Stats Honors. No changes to those contents other than the standards and obviously the books that go with them. Yes, ma'am.
Is geometry in 8th grade the same book, the same textbook and everything if you were to take geometry in 9th grade?
So you'll see
being in GT.
So there is Geometry Envision AGA, which is going to be our geometry textbook, and that should be the same as our Envision. I just wrote geometry so you knew it was the course, but that should be the same text for those two.
Same book and everything, whether you take it in 8th grade or 9th grade.
Yes, ma'am. I believe that is the case. Specific to Geometry with Statistics Honors, because our middle school students are taking it at the honors level, there is a differentiation. Some will take it CP, some will take it honors, but I think it's the same. Yeah, it's in the same box, so it is the same text. Continuing with, we hit math. Let's get out of math. High school social studies and science, much fewer choices here. Just one in social studies world. We're adding a new course, AP World History. So they selected a new text. And then we've always had AP, we haven't always, but we've had AP Physics for a long time. This AP Physics C is really AP Physics with some pretty heavy-duty calculus. So you have to have it concurrently or had AP Calc to get into that. So you'll notice it's going to be calc heavy. And then Astronomy Honors is something that we're trying out. It is being piloted just this year, I believe, at Catawba Ridge, open to all students, but being piloted on that campus. And they selected a text for the first time there. And then we'll transition to our CTE courses. So obviously you guys approved cosmetology not that long ago, I think 2 meetings ago, and we have books for it, or we have a book for cosmetology 1, 2, 3, and 4, some new books for sports med, and then personal finance and advanced personal finance. The subtle difference here is personal finance refers to the course that kind of all students take learning that's kind of replacement for High School 101 tied with health. And then we had a standalone, it's not split up, it's 90 days in the work of personal finance, and it is a CTE credit. That one is advanced personal finance, so they have the same book, but they're going to be 2 different courses and coded differently. One is CTE and one not. So if you wondered why there was that differentiation, it was that. So I think when I counted them, 26 books for me, 1 for Peter, so that'd be 27. So those are our recommendations for new books based off of our teachers and our director and coordinators' recommendations.
And just to reiterate, because you know I love to do this, just to reiterate, these are books that were chosen by the Department of Ed and their board to then allow us to review, to then select what works in a Fort Mill School District based on the small selection that they gave us to choose from.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on that. Dr. Epps kind of eloquently led us into that earlier, but the state gives us a curated list. The state has the whole gamut of give them feedback. If you have complaints or questions, you can talk to the state. And once that window closes, that's when they bring these to us. So at this point, they are vetted by the state and approved, and we're just selecting from, in some cases, maybe 5 or 6 in a given math course. Some of them only had 1 textbook, and I think part of that could be the newness of these classes. But we are selecting from a curated list that has already had public feedback and state approval.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration to approve the 27 textbooks as presented this evening.
Second.
Motion is second to approve the 27 textbooks that we were presented. Is there any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Your textbooks are approved.
Thank you very much. We appreciate it.
And then we do have another action item about the second reading and consideration of the school calendar.
They had 27 books. I've got 180 days, so let's see how this works out. Good evening. Yes, I am here tonight. We're going to bring back the calendar to you that we showed you 2 weeks ago. We do have a few changes I want to go through. Some of the feedback we got from you, as well as some of the feedback we continue to get from some of our staff and parents and that kind of stuff. Again, while we did not have a formal process because we just went through an entire feedback process just around 6 months ago, we did continue to hear back from some people on some things. And some of the stuff was things we discussed here in this room at the last meeting. So jump right into it. The beginning and end of school did not change in this version. We still have students coming back on the August 3rd with staff coming back on July 27th. One of the things that was the biggest change for this is in talking with Dr. Wakesness and Dr. Scroggs about, especially at the high school level, because this is where it kind of has more impact. We have looked at making a modification to this calendar where it is now an 89 split to 91 in the after portion. We had a lot of conversation about that, and I'll tell you why we did it in just a second, but the reasons behind it not being as much of an issue, there are some things that go on in the second semester that do cause for instructional time loss, so having that extra day there is not necessarily a bad thing. There's a lot of testing windows that takes away instructional time, so that helps out. If you look back at a lot of our missed days this year, we had a lot more that were missed in the second semester, so having an extra day there is not a bad thing. But mainly, it still allowed us to achieve a pretty balanced semester. 1 day swing is not a huge deal. It's when you start getting into the 85s and things like that that you really have problems. And if you had a large number of missed days in the first semester, you never want to get in danger of having your semester not count. So obviously we want to keep it as balanced as possible, but also while looking at some of the things we're required to have in there and meet some of the other goals. So what we do have is an 89 in the first semester. You will notice there's a big difference in October. We originally had the purple week that is there, which is the break for eligible students and staff, was originally on the week of the 12th through the 16th and had a teacher workday scheduled for that 12th. We knew that was not ideal. Part of the reason that was there was because of the requirement for the election day off, and it just threw the numbers off. So now that we've gone to that 89 first semester setup, we're able to separate those two. We did talk again with Mr. Olinger and all of our elementary school principals because that 12th date is very important to them. We talked with them about where placement of that would work best. We looked at doing maybe the Friday before, but there was a lot of concern that parents would go ahead and plan early trips. Staff may want to take the day off, so it would become, again, an unuseful day. We looked at the Monday after because it would give everybody a chance coming back in from that break to get back in the mode of being here, plus they could use it for some other purposes. So that's why that got placed there. We really did try to look at what was going to work out best for all the levels of schools and still, figure these breaks in. Now, where we did have an issue with the last calendar we presented to you, there was an error with Memorial Day. The last calendar had Memorial Day listed as the 24th. That is wrong for 2027. I apologize that I missed the day 2 years out, but it actually should be on the 31st. So that actually played in our favor because the day we added in did not have to change the end of school because basically that Monday, which was a holiday, just became a school day. So it did not require any moving around of parts or pieces in the second semester. So that is pretty much the encompassing portion of the changes. I'll be happy to answer any questions you guys have about this calendar, but will be recommending this to you tonight for approval.
I'd like to make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the administration for approval of the 2026 2027 school year calendar.
Second.
Motion and a second to approve the updated 26-27 school year calendar as presented. Any discussion?
Yeah, I've got one. Well, first of all, awesome job
Yes.
as usual. I know it's your favorite thing in the world to do, probably. So there, I just want to address the teacher work day after Memorial Day, and this has happened several years before.
Yes.
There will be a process in place because really that teacher work day is to close up the school year.
Yeah, that is to close out the school year. If it were possible calendar-wise to get it in before that Memorial Day, we would like to do that. We do know there are some accommodations for staff where they may come in on that Saturday to close it out. They may, make other arrangements to be able to come in and do it. But yes, it is for closing school out for the year. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
I was looking at potential makeup days. So I see the one in particular on March the 26th. And I think that's really important because, as we've learned before, a lot of times our weather may not happen until after February the 1st. I also see February the 15th is one of those days.
Yes, that has traditionally been a day in the past. Again, with the new process we have with e-learning, obviously if the situation arises where we can make it up on the day that it's missed, that is the ultimate goal, and we are getting better at that. Unfortunately, there are things that just happen too late for us to be able to do it. But yeah, that date is there. Again, having the flexibility with it as well. We did this past year where we had a situation that came up. It was too close to the date that we hadn't marked as a makeup day, so we used a date later in the year to do that. So we do have a little more flexibility with it. It is marked there, but that does not necessarily mean it will be a first choice in using for a makeup day.
Right. And like you said, I know we try to do the e-learning days if we have enough warning of weather or water issues or wind or whatever it may be.
And a lot of that has to do with making sure teachers have the lessons prepared,
Right.
but also getting devices in the hands of kids. That's the other big thing, is making sure the kids that need them have the chance to get the devices.
And so likewise, back in the fall, that date that we just talked about of October the 12th
Yes.
is, I think, the only date if we get one of those crazy hurricane kind of days or
Yes.
anything like that again.
That is the only date that is listed there. Obviously, we can't add any of those during the Thanksgiving break. The September 7th could be added as a possible date, although it's so early in the year, we generally don't have things. I think really with the first semester, what ultimately it comes down to is that we don't fall in dates that would really work for doing that. We could add one to the 21st, let's say the first week of the Christmas break, but again, I don't know that that's going to be a very useful day in there, and that's really the challenge with the first semester, why we don't see a lot of those days marked in there.
Okay.
The goal obviously is to be able to make up the day on a day we miss, if at all possible.
Right. Great. Okay. Questions? All right. All those in favor of the calendar as presented signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? We have a new calendar.
Thank you.
All right. And that concludes our action items and turns the floor over to you for your report.
Okay, let's check some more boxes. I'm trying to get some things done before I leave. Alan, we'll do impact fees next week. What else y'all want? No, seriously, we hope we're successful next week. Let's look at dates first, the calendar of events. April 1, of course, tonight the meeting, the public hearing next Tuesday. No, is that Monday?
Well,
That's Monday, I'm sorry, with the third reading of the
Yeah, it's-
impact fee. The Hall of Fame,
but it's not a public hearing, just for the record. It is a third reading, but it is not a public hearing.
Okay,
So
you're
there
right.
is no public hearing involved with that activity. It's
that's
just a
my
vote.
mistake.
It's not for us, it's for the council.
yeah, that's right. The next night, the Tuesday, this Fort Miss School District Hall of Fame reception at 5 o'clock. We've already announced those names. The 9th is your day at the Capitol, School Board Association Day at the Capitol. The 10th, we have, is Monday, is that right, the 10th?
Yeah.
Okay,
That's the third.
yeah.
Wait, that's not right.
No, that's not right.
I'm trying to, I'm
I
trying to,
must have missed that one. We're in April now. Let me pull my,
all right.
it'd be the
Be the
7th.
7th.
Be the 7th, yeah. My bad. Okay, so the 7th is the school board visit to the aquatic center, and we need to start there first, Peter, because there's, saying it right?
I don't know.
Is it
Trying
the
to get this.
14th?
April,
I don't-
April 7th is what we've got on our,
Yeah,
7th?
it's the 7th, which is
It
a
is.
Monday.
didn't put
It
the
is the
14th.
14th?
It's the 7th.
I'm sorry, we do not have school visits on Monday the 7th.
We do. We sure had them, we had them in our. It's on
my calendar.
It's
I
on
have
our
it on the
calendar.
7th on
We had
my
on the big
calendar.
calendar.
It's
It is the 7th?
It's the 7th, yeah, because we had to change,
Okay.
yeah.
Because I will, after I have requested to do aquatics facility and whatnot, I will not be here for it.
But we need to do the aquatic center first because that's when they have kids and
Right.
they don't,
Okay.
they're lunch the rest of the time, yeah. Then we'll go to Springfield
I got it.
Elementary, Springfield Middle.
Okay, got it.
Then the impact fee that night. Okay, back where I messed up, let me see. Then is the 10th right this time?
Yes.
Yep.
Banquet.
Yeah, that's the Fort Mill, Teacher of the Year banquet.
Yep.
Then the school board meeting on the 15th, and the spring break the 21 through the 25th. All right, that's April. Anything else in April that needs to be mentioned? Okay, we'll go on to May, the school board meeting on the 6th, the visits to Pleasant Knoll Elementary and Pleasant Knoll Middle, and on the 12th, the retiree banquet on the 14th at 5:30, the support staff of the year brunch on the 15th at 9. And then you've got the superintendent finalists. I don't know if that's a firmed up date for you guys or not on the 19th of May. Is that firmed up or not?
It's jello-y.
Okay, Jello.
It's in pencil.
Yellowy, terrainy.
School board meeting on the 20th. We're in May now. The half day for students on the 22nd, the dismissal half day on the 23rd, graduation on the 23rd, Catawba Ridge at 10, NAFO at 6 and NAFO at 2 and Fort Mill High at 6. And then the holiday we spoke about in the teacher work day. All right, what did I leave out? Hearing nothing?
We'll catch
Well,
you
I mean,
up on
as we mentioned, we've got a number of other
But a lot of that's not public, that's
activity,
y'all.
exactly, activities related to candidates and interviews and things like that.
Right, okay.
And I just want to clarify back on the 20th of May, that is the budget meeting, that is the, no?
We'll
No.
do the,
That'll be in June.
public hearing on the budget in June,
Okay,
as we've done the last couple.
Same night we approve it, like we've
okay.
done the last two.
So the fact that it says public session is not that kind of public session. Okay. Okay.
All right, any other dates? Okay, the, enrollment, find my little cheat sheet, okay, we grew by 20, it's a big month for us, we hadn't been growing like that, so we're up to
20 and
18,430, and when you add the grads, we get over above 18,500, so, questions about that?
Nope.
Then we get teacher attendance for the month. Catawba Ridge led the way at high schools with 93.7. Pleasant Knoll led the way. Pleasant Knoll led the way for middle schools at 96.2. And the winner for the district level this month was River Trail at 96.8. So River Trail led the way.
We had discussions a few months back, might have been December, January, about adding student absences, kind of like how we track staff, but to track student by school.
Attendance rates?
Yeah.
I know we talked about it, I don't know that we ever,
I thought we
Yeah.
were gonna start doing that. I thought our discussion said that we were gonna start doing that. And it dawned on me, I don't know, when I was doing my
So currently,
homework.
we're reporting schools. You're suggesting.
staff,
Oh,
she's
staff.
saying, it came up in the conversation about chronic absenteeism,
I
right?
remember that, I just don't know what we're asking for.
Attendance,
Absenteeism, attendance by
Right.
school of students.
Okay.
and I think, I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure we'll get much out of it for the next
2 months.
couple months
Less than.
with spring break
That
and
might be a
other things in
good
it, but it'll,
2025, 2026 start. track for.
We could see what we can get the next month or two, and then that'll be.
Kind of test waters
drive
with,
it.
with
Yeah.
how, what the
Test
report
drive
could
it.
look like and things like
Right.
that. Okay.
Okay, and then finally, I want to end with, we were forwarded a letter from the Pediatric Environmental Health Specialty Units at Emory University, and we've had some questions about that. I'm going to ask Joe Burke to come up and give us an update on where we are with that process, if you would.
Thank you, Dr. Epps. Yeah, as he just mentioned, back in February, near the end of February, we did get a letter forwarded to us by a community group that was from the PEHSU. That's the acronym I'm going to use, so we don't have to go through it the whole time. But they are out of Emory University. The letter itself did include some recommendations in there as in regards to the SILFAP solar location that is adjacent or proposed to be adjacent to the schools. It did include some recommendations, including a third-party environmental evaluation and consideration of physical mitigation factors at the schools. I'm going to start with those because those are a little bit easier to go through everything on that side. We've talked with Mr. Romanek over there about everything going into the schools as far as school construction goes. Some of the things that were listed in there were the high-efficiency HVAC systems, MERV 13 air filtration systems. Our buildings also include a bipolar ionic air filtration system as well too that actually goes beyond the recommendations. We have verified that all of our school buildings, not just these two that are being built, do meet all of these recommendations that were in there for physical mitigation factors. All of our current buildings and the two that are being built would be included in that. There were also recommendations for natural barriers and other things that can help with air quality, cutting down on sound, noise, that kind of thing. All of that stuff is planned for the building as well too. The other thing that I mentioned was the inclusion of a third-party environmental evaluation. We reached out directly to the PEHSU. I talked with Dr. Mutic, who the letter was addressed from, and asked them for input on how we would go about that, some recommendations on people to contact. They did eventually provide me some recommendations on some people to contact, an environmental company that's actually out of Spartanburg, as well as she was able to get me the EPA representative for our region's contact information. And so we have reached out to both of them. I'll start with the EPA person first. Talked with them and got in touch, tried to go through the whole situation, mainly focusing on their area of input as far as the emergency response plans and what that process is, whether it's approved or filed or reviewed, all of that. So we requested more information from them on where they're at or how they're involved in that process, what the steps are, and how it goes through for whatever the term is, approval or filing. And then we also requested more information about their involvement in the regulatory side of the facility here locally, what approval factors that they may have, all of that type of information. At this time, we are still awaiting that information on both of those fronts. I have reached out to them again to remind them that we are asking for it so we can get it in as soon as possible. So I'm waiting to hear back from them. I did speak with the environmental testing company that was recommended by the PEHSU that is out of Spartanburg. Had a great conversation with them. Their area of expertise is not in the preliminary stage. It is in the post stage after a facility opens. So I talked with him a lot about what they can do to provide to the district as far as air quality testing ongoing to ensure that all the air quality on our site is meeting whatever guidelines are set forth by DHEC for that area. That is something the district is going to continue to evaluate, possibly moving forward with should the facility open up. So that is one thing that we are in process of. He then in turn gave me two recommendations for people to reach out to for the district. One being a hydrologist who deals mostly with water and soil. The other being a certified industrial health specialist. And he explained to me that the certified industrial health specialist would be more of the realm of looking into the preliminary assessments that could be done, but also would help develop the testing schedule if we move forward with testing on how often, where on the property, all of that stuff moving forward. I was able to get in touch with both of those individuals. The hydrologist, again, let me know that it was not really his area of expertise since he deals more with water and soil. But if we ever, wanted to move forward with that, he could certainly help out with a testing plan or maintenance plans for those things. But he was actually able to provide me a contact with an international firm that does environmental evaluation process. So we have reached out to them to request a consultation. It is an international national firm. So It's not quite as easy as it was to be able to pick up the phone and call the individuals that I've talked to, but I've sent in multiple requests now with that firm. I talked to the certified industrial health specialist just a couple days ago. He actually is not able to contract with us right now. He works out of Charleston and is very busy with the ports that are down there, so he does not have the extra time to take up the extra project up here in Fort Mill. But he gave me a contact as well for a different firm, a international firm that also does this, who I've also reached out to try to schedule a consultation with. And he also provided a little bit more information about what that preliminary information or preliminary assessments would look like. He said the main area of focus for that is they're going to look at all the modeling data that was provided as part of the air quality permits. They're going to verify that the data matches to what the permits are adjusted for, and ensure that information matches up. And then, of course, like I said, helping develop with any testing plans on our grounds if we wanted to move forward with that as well too. So currently, right now, that's where we're at with this process. Again, anybody I'm not hearing from on a regular basis, I'm reaching back out to remind them that I'm waiting to hear from them. And again, we're waiting to hear back from the two firms that we've requested consultation of. One of them does have a base, not a base of operations, but an actual operating office in Charlotte. And then the other one, I'm not 100%, I believe they may be out of Atlanta or somewhere like that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. I can certainly answer any of those questions related to what we've conversations, but that's kind of the gist of it.
Purely out of curiosity, because we will start the budget processing and whatnot, did they give you any indication as to what ongoing air quality testing could look like from a cost standpoint so that we can budget and account for that in that process?
I actually had that conversation when I talked to the environmental testing company out of Spartanburg. They are very familiar with operating in schools. They work in CMS. They work in Greenville County, I believe is what he said too. Most of that is more for older buildings. They deal with asbestos issues and that kind of thing, but their field is all across this. He said that would just depend on the frequency of testing, what specific testings are out there, and he wouldn't really be able to give me an idea on that until we had a testing plan in place that would allow them to better do that. As far as the preliminary research, I'm not sure on a price for that. From the understanding I got, as you go up the chain to bigger and bigger firms that can take on this type of work, the cost does go up with it. But I do not have an estimate on it.
Okay. I was just curious so that we can, obviously make the right budgetary plannings.
Sure.
To make sure that we're able to.
Yeah, and as soon as we can get to that point where we can really move forward, then that would be something, obviously, Ms. Lordo and I would come together on.
Sure.
And given that we just talked about June, then there's still time to keep.
Right.
And I just appreciate you continuing to try and track these folks down, because I know I'm not sure how long ago we first had the conversation about an independent third-party evaluation when we first started hearing the concerns and even learned what SILFAB was, and hadn't had much luck up until this point of finding anyone. So continuing to look around and see if we can get in touch with someone that's willing and able would be great.
Yeah, and I will say that all the people that I've talked to have been very helpful as far as, giving us someone to reach out to next.
Sure.
So.
Right. Okay.
Joe Burke, that's big stuff, man. That's awesome. I'm proud. I'll just tell you I love hearing that. Like that really says that we're listening and we're engaging. So I just appreciate you staying on top of it. I would actually love it if we could put out some kind of individual update for those who are watching this. They might not make it all the way to the end of the meeting. If we could clip out a Fort Mill School District update on SILFAB, just of what you just said, and maybe just write it out, some kind of statement about that of what we're doing
on the website.
I think that would be fantastic if it's not already there. Yeah, I think some people are going to be, no matter how that report comes back, some people are they're going to just keep what they have, right? But I think for a lot of people, it will give them at least a sense of, okay, I was heard and it was addressed, and if it comes back, great. Okay, I think that's going to make a lot of people feel a lot better. So yeah, I just want to say thank you. That's fantastic.
And ideally, if it comes back with something actionable.
Yep.
Right. And if the answer is great, then it's great. But if even better is here's the 3 things that you can do
Right.
to monitor, to continue to track, right? I mean, that's,
Yeah, in my conversations, like I said, with the
action is even
environmental
better.
testing company, I mean, he
Right.
said basically they can come up with an entire plan for insuring, and he said the way that process works is you do your testing, obviously you're reviewing your own testing data. If you see any anomalies, you're able to report those immediately.
Well, and we have taken very appropriate and very above and beyond steps in all of our schools with, you know, these things that rattle and scream all the time, and the extra HEPA filters to the higher efficiency HVAC systems and the rest of it. So it's not a matter of we've not done or we're never doing or otherwise anything for preventative or the rest of it. We have been, and we do it across the board all the time.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Did you have more?
No, we got a robust,
We
executive session coming up,
do.
so I don't have anything else.
Right. Okay. Well, that being said, we are in need of an executive session to discuss legal issues, contractual issues, and personnel recommendations. So,
Motion
thank you
to
all
go
for
into
joining.
public
We are now
session.
moving into executive session.